Well, on this FHS podcast, I'm delighted to have one of our key sponsors and Chief Executive Officer of Sommet Education, Benoît-Etienne Domenget. Benoît-Etienne, lovely to have you with us today.
Hi, Jonathan. Lovely to be with you today.
That's great. And where, may I ask, you are doing this podcast from?
I'm doing this podcast from my office in Switzerland, in sunny Switzerland.
Very good, because you must be on the plane an awful lot at the moment.
Yeah, plane, trains, various transportation mode, indeed, and quite often across the globe.
I bet, indeed. Now, tell us a little bit about Sommet Education, because it's pretty critical for our industry to have Sommet Education driving the workforce forward with the huge demand that there is for staffing in our industry.
So in a nutshell, Sommet Education, we are an international education group. We are based and grounded and born in Switzerland. And we have 5 international institutions, namely Glion, Les Roches, École Ducasse in the culinary space, Indian School of Hospitality, based in India, and Invictus Group, which is a platform of education in South Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa. We operate around 20, we are above 20 operations today, and a couple of additional one under planning and under construction. So we'll soon have 30 operations around the globe in countries such as obviously India and South Africa, which I've already mentioned, Switzerland, France, UK, Spain, and moving to other interesting destination where, as you just and rightly said, the talent development remains at the core of our model. This is what we do. That's what we do night and day. And as doing so, hopefully we serve the industry, the overall hospitality industry, the experience industry, as much as destinations who are currently involved in, and obviously Saudi is one of them, in boosting destination tourism.
Before we move into sort of the macro picture here in terms of the need for education in our industry and particularly in Saudi, just a step back a little bit in terms of your leadership roles with Accor and then moving to Sommet Education. What was that? What motivated you to transition into hospitality education? And how is your past shaped your vision for empowering the future?
Yeah, I was privileged in hospitality business to have various roles, both at an operational level, development level, general management level, and I think what I've witnessed led me naturally to that move to Sommet Education and to the education side of it, because I've been able to witness, I would say, the scarcity of talent and the dire need for talent development in that industry. And the way to say it, which sounds maybe a bit provocative, is, in my view, when you look at what happens in hospitality, and hospitality is a growing industry, it's rather easy ultimately to find a good plot of land to create a new property. It's rather easy to find money. Money is available around the globe. It's not that tricky to find great architects and designers because they are available and there are plenty of talents. But finding the right talent to operate those existing properties, this is very difficult. And I've witnessed that firsthand on the other side of the table, shall I say. And I think that was the fundamental rationale and the fundamental driver for me to move to the other side of the table, to move to education, and doing something that ultimately is a serious matter, which is providing the future talent with the right skill set and making sure that this industry, which I love and which I've worked my entire life, has the necessary talents now and in the future.
Is the collaboration between the industry and education? Is there? Do you have that collaboration at the moment? Because we're often in our sector, in our space, we're dealing with the developers and investors, the hotel operators. Are we neglecting this side of the operational side? Once these hotels are opened.
I think and the short answer to your question is yes, very much. And we do have a very high level of collaboration and cooperation with industry and with, of course, with hotel operators and above and beyond hotel operators, all the industry operators, whether we're talking about airlines, F&B businesses, hotel companies. And I think that's very much rooted in our DNA, because we are the heirs of our Swiss educational model, which has always been walking on two legs, being very strong on the academic side of it, as much as being very strong on the practical side of it, and having industry involved in future program development, advisory boards. Continuous discussion with industry partners is really part of the DNA, which obviously I didn't invent it, and which has been lasting for the past 70 years. So yes, the collaboration is extremely strong. I think you've used a name, and I'm pretty sure it's on purpose, is neglected. And that might have been the case in the past, but I think that the recent years and what happened recently has been a very big wake-up call for the entire industry. And my own sense is that there is still room for development in that respect, obviously, but today no one would question that talent ultimately is talent and is not a commodity. And I think that's the fundamental switch that hotel companies, industry operators, hotel owners are currently making, moving from, maybe sometime something again a bit provocative, thinking that staff in a hotel or staff in an airport or staff in a restaurant sometimes has been considered as commodity. And given currently the dynamics in that industry and the vast needs, you're talking about hundreds, millions of people in reality and future employees that can no longer be the case. And if you don't engage in talent attraction, talent development, talent retention, it's very unlikely that you win the game.
I noticed on your website you've got there is 334 million jobs in the industry. By 2028, there is a need for 434 million jobs. So 100 million jobs are going to be created over a very short period of time. Are those numbers just impossible to deal with in terms of education and bringing those employees into, or those individuals into our industry?
The answer is no, it's not impossible, but it takes a lot of action to happen. And I think, you've mentioned numbers which are nearly theoretical indeed. When you look at such vast numbers, what does it mean to train and to recruit 100 million people? But I think you've got layers in that one. And first of all, you've got fundamental or initial education, as we would call it. And those are the fresh graduates entering into that industry. And that's very important because those are the future talent of that industry. And those do firmly believe that they want to eat and breathe hospitality. And after that, you've got the existing talents, and you've got all those that you want to attract and that industry players want to attract from the other industries. And I think what is critical today is that if to achieve those numbers, there is only one way, which is lifelong learning, which is continuous education at all stages of your life cycle, your professional life cycle. Fundamental education, that's skilling. And after that, it's reskilling and upskilling. And again, attracting. So with the numbers that you've mentioned, and hospitality industry will remain with those numbers the first employer in the world by pretty far. Fresh graduates entering that industry will never be enough. They are already not enough today. The number of graduates today graduating from hospitality education at large are not enough to fill the future needs. Let me give you just one other number. If you take just the hotel pipeline under construction today, you're probably talking around 300 to 400 management position. I'm talking management roles, not even talking about frontline position, talking management position to be filled in the next 5 years. The total number of fresh graduates is never going to fill that up. So you need to attract, and that is where continuous education, blocks of competencies, lifelong learning, for which educators as we are, despite the willingness that we have, can only impact as much as the industry, the hotel operators, the entire industry is willing to invest. So I think to achieve that, there is only one word, it's invest. Invest in talent, and it's fine to invest in hotels, in brick and mortars, in kitchens, in nice restaurants, in spas and resorts. Absolutely, that's needed, but that's not enough. And today it's time to invest in talent.
And you've got these different levels. You talk about the continuous learning. How do you you obviously have senior management courses available for the industry. To explain what you're doing there.
That's ultimately that's not easy, but that's pretty simple, hopefully, to explain and to understand. And I think today it's a matter of content, and it's a matter of competencies that need to be enhanced for the entire industry. And that's not me saying it. That's data. That's data, and that is market feedback. Just a couple of numbers there again. Today, there is a massive need from the customers. And ultimately, everything that we developed is based on market feedback, industry feedback, customer feedback. One of the more massive need today is personalization of the customer experience. That's true in hotel, that's true in retail, that's true everywhere. 2 years ago, 2023, McKinsey performed a study in that respect. 80% of the travelers demand highly customized experiences. 33% of the business which are interviewed clearly state that they are ready. It means that you have a 50% gap between aspiration and readiness. So today, when we interact with industry, some of those elements are going to be critical in the building of those bespoke proposals and those bespoke education pathways, training paths that we offer to the industry to make sure that they invest where the market tells us they need the most. Personalization is a very big thing. The other ones are digital and technological proficiency. And there again, around 70% of the hotels, the existing hotels, report a skill gap in automation, digital, AI systems. That's another study by Ernst & Young in 2023. 70% of the hotels, and they are willing to, and they understand it. But that shows again the difference between understanding, willingness, and readiness. Exactly the same number, exactly the same topic on sustainability and everything pertaining to ESG. So, typically those three elements are those on which we will focus our discussion, focus our program creation, focus the discussion point and the discussion topics, the topics for discussion, with industry to make sure that investing is important, but investing where, investing how. And so those would be the where to invest, personalization, digital and technological proficiency, sustainability and ESG. And the how is bespoke, flexible, adaptable, hybrid, meaning either distance, either on campus. Why so? Because you're talking about a mass of people who are currently working professionals. And if you want to, again, develop, you need to adapt to their respective business constraint, meaning that, they are working on a daily basis. And we know that hospitality is a 365, 24/7. So we are highly flexible, highly adaptable, but most importantly, delivery ultimately is not the issue, is not the problem. That's our day-to-day job. The question is topic, content. And for those, sorry to repeat myself, personalization, digital, technology, sustainability, ESG.
Right. And you're doing that through the Sommet Education Business Solutions, partnering with.
Exactly. We have a dedicated business vertical, business solution team, which work hand in hand with all the brands to make sure that everywhere we find and we identify market needs, we are able to come and to provide a solution that can go from executive MBAs, executive masters, vocational courses, professional blocks of competencies in culinary, in pastry, whatever is needed to improve again the overall experience, the overall customer experience.
Right. So moving on to Saudi with this huge vision that they have for 2030 with 100 million annual visitors and 300,000 new hotel rooms to be added to the inventory by 2030. This must be a particular, say, challenge, but opportunity as well for Summit to facilitate and to assist on the education of hospitality individuals for the future.
I think, and obviously you're right, you've mentioned it. I mean, 320,000 rooms currently in the pipeline and to be built by 2030. That's obviously pretty amazing. And I think everything we've said remains absolutely valid for Saudi Arabia, with one big variation, which is the quantum and the time. So it's doing a lot in a very short period of time. 1 million employees. And what we feel is that there again, we are talking numbers, we are talking content, and we are talking delivery mode. And delivery mode, again, I'm not going to expand too much because I've already alluded to it. But what is absolutely critical is to make sure that indeed, and Sommet Education can be a component of an element of the solution, not the element of the solution, obviously, and given the quantum we are talking about, but is to make sure that there is a good balance between skilling and upskilling very quickly, very large workforce, which is expected in the next 5 years, as much as maintaining and as equipping very high-end luxury standards from a customer experience perspective and respecting local cultural integrity. Why am I mentioning luxury? Because 70% of the rooms to be opened, the 300,000 you've mentioned, is upscale and luxury. So it means that the development starts from the top of the pyramid when it comes to the level of customer experience. Maybe 2 examples to illustrate what we do. And recently at the Global Labor and Market Conference, we've announced that with Al Qura University, a local partner, a very reputable university education player in the kingdom, we are currently running with them short programs, short blocks of competencies delivery to train 50,000 people, 50,000. So that's how to answer the quantum. And at the same time, with the Ministry of Tourism, in the last 2 years, we've hosted several hundreds of working professionals, talented professionals, to upskill them with executive master's degree. So at the same time, we provide solutions to help that gigantic move that we see happening in the kingdom, which requires both numbers and very high quality, and that's what we try to do.
And obviously, you're working on women in the industry as well. I mean, I think in Saudi it's about 8.1%, or that's in the entire workforce. And then you've got youth unemployment at 16% as well. So it's a matter of trying to draw them in, isn't it, to our industry and keep them, retain them. Retaining them must be a real challenge and a goal for you as well.
You're 200% right, Nathan. And I think for us, it's attracting, really the golden words in that respect is attracting, developing, and retaining. And retention of talents within the hospitality is not relying only on professional development. Let's face it. But professional development, building blocks of competencies again, stacking up your blocks of competencies, improving, that's an important element. And we are proud in I've mentioned it with executive masters in Saudi Arabia when we talk specifically Saudi Arabia. More than 90%, 90 and 90 or more than 90% of the graduates of the first program of hospitality leaders with Les Roches have benefited from a job change and a pay rise. And that's exactly the aim, is to make sure that what we do makes sense and what we do contributes to that elevation, that overall elevation of the level of retention. Because when we do so, you mentioned retention, not only you attract, but you retain, because you have the ability to give someone the next position, the higher job, the future job. And that's obviously what we aim for, both at entry level, mid-management, senior management, top management level.
And I suppose you're bringing back the alumni all the time, aren't you, to showcase what they're doing in the industry, because there's so much innovation, there's so much dynamism going on in the industry at the moment that we need to showcase, particularly to developing economies like Saudi. It's not all about working in the kitchens. It's a career path all the way through to running your own business.
100%, and thanks, Jonathan, for mentioning our alumni. That's something that we hold very dear. 60,000 alumni across our various institutions, and they are the living evidence of everything I've been speaking about. Their ability to impact the market, to hold key position within the markets. We are fortunate to have a very strong alumni network in Saudi Arabia, talking about Saudi, and they are obviously role models for the future generation, because they are aspirational profiles. Because anyone who would look at their profile would see the ability to progress, the ability to move up the ladder, the ability to go fast. And I think what we also aim to do with all our institutions is not only to be job ready, not only to get a job, but to get a fast track to the next job. And that, I think, again, mentioning our alumni, I think they would testify and they would echo those words, that indeed the pathway that we offer, not only from an attraction perspective and a retention perspective, but from a fast track perspective to the next job.
Yeah. Moving on to FHS Saudi coming up around the corner, you're kindly hosting the Future Leader Award, which we're delighted with. And this is to recognize young talent in the industry. What qualities do you believe define the next generation of leaders, and how can initiatives like this award inspire innovation and inclusion in the industry?
My own sense is that we are fortunate, to work in a very peculiar universe, which is very much rooted in operation, customer service on a day-to-day basis, as well as very inspirational, because ultimately the industry is about brand perception, brand promise. And in my view, the next leaders, the next talent must have, head in the sky and feet on the ground. Head in the sky is making sure that you understand your brand promise, that you are making sure that you can evolve your brand promise, that your brand remains on top of things, aspirational, and that ultimately you attract customers. And at the same time, feet on the ground, because brand promise is only great as long as brand execution is perfect. And for that, I think it's fair to say that's not that easy, but that can be acquired. You need strategic foresight. You need emotional intelligence. You need those elements of digital fluency you mentioned. You need to be driving value creation, because without value creation, brand promise and brand execution remains, I wouldn't say meaningless, but probably not enough. And ultimately extremely customer and team centric to make sure that the execution again of your brand promise is seamless. So some might say that those are probably the qualities of the great entrepreneur, and hopefully the next generation of leaders in that business, either they are intrapreneur or entrepreneur. But my view is that those are the fundamental qualities that you have. And repeating myself, but head in the sky and feet on the ground.
Okay, great. And delighted to be working with you on that particular award. So you mentioned earlier about technology, but I want to just dive into a little bit ESG, and how are you training on ESG at the moment, and because I think the one of the challenges we have for frontline staff is they aren't trained in ESG. So if they're not trained in ESG, how can you provide and promote those the good work that the hotel in this case is doing to clients?
I will start with the second part of your question, because many things are currently happening. And my own sense is that it's a lot about, again, perception. And saying that the industry is not moving on ESG would be a gross understatement. The overall hospitality industry has moved since at least a good decade in making sure that ESG is embedded within the brand DNA and with the day-to-day operation. And that goes above and beyond, the waste management stories about diversity, inclusion, making sure that you attract talent from all over the globe and all over social backgrounds. That you work cautiously on sustainable tourism, and I think that's probably something that every brand will be confronted with in the future, which is making sure that sustainable hospitality, sustainable tourism, sustainable luxury is not only a nice word and not only a motto, but something which really inspires the day-to-day operation. Because again, I think what the major not hurdle, but the major focus shouldn't be on only the brand promise, but the execution on the day-to-day basis. And as far as we are concerned, every single program that we run, whether you're talking about short courses, whether you're talking about higher education degrees, would incorporate those elements of ESG, contemplating sustainability, making sure that when it comes to culinary, for example, making sure that you work out to source local, how to use less proteins. And I'm talking very, very basic and down-to-earth examples. But I think this is something that is ultimately proved bottom-up and not top-down. So that's the way we do it. Integrate ESG, integrating those operational evidences of ESG commitment within all the curriculum that we run, leveraging and making sure that the student that we have can leverage those when in their future jobs or in their current one, with one approach, which I think I should probably re-emphasize again, is that we believe in real life, real situation experience on campus or simulations to make sure that, again, we are in a job-ready approach. It's not only, there are components of theory, of course, in ESG and in everything that we do, but it becomes operational. Today, let me give you another example that I've been interesting enough discussing with the teams at Glion a couple of days ago. In our kitchens at Glion, you would find elements of, and you would find, and thanks to AI, by the way, some technologies around food safety, security, and waste management, enabling our students to come to the market with the best in class practical and theoretical knowledge around it. Students coming back from the industry and telling us, you know what we had at Glion, I've never seen something so advanced in the industry, in the property or in the hotel that I was working with. And that's not being arrogant. That's just making sure that we leverage new tech as well to make sure that we provide our students with cutting edge, the most advanced, the technology of today, hopefully tomorrow, but at least today, to make sure that they can impact. Because ultimately, ESG is about impacting the industry, not just about speaking about it.
Sure, and ever evolving as well, of course, and that's what makes it so interesting, doesn't it? So, a final question for you: if you could design the dream hospitality training program that combines all your experience to date and then your partnerships that you've had, what would it look like, and how would it prepare future leaders for this ever evolving industry?
My immediate answer, Jonathan, and you probably expect it, but I'm not sure that I can satisfy you with that one, is that it already exists and that's within our portfolio, of course. But beyond that, I think There again, it's about content and delivery. Content, it has to be very anchored in real world challenges. Today we've talked about ESG. Let's look at how complicated is the environment in which we all evolved. I think that the recent examples, the recent geopolitical shocks, show that elements around crisis management, adaptability to very fast change, but not only fast, but very impacting changes, digital transformation, AI, all of those around guest experience has to be at the center of that dream program. And on the delivery, I think it has to be adapted to the current learning trends. And let's face it, our generation, the younger generation, we are more lazy when it comes to learning. Our attention span is shorter, and we tend to leverage multiple interaction, whether with paper, with books, with screens, and there is no judgment around those. I think our job, and that's what we do on a daily basis, is to adapt to those new learning. Let's call it capabilities, if not abilities. So, really, my dream program is around content, around the line that I've designed, and around delivery mode to make sure that we fit and we adapt to the learning modes of the next generation, in order again to be always job ready, which is our mantra.
Well, on that note, Benoît-Etienne, thank you so much for joining this podcast and learning a little bit about Sommet Education. I've learned a lot and look very much forward to seeing you in just around the corner at FHS Saudi, and absolutely delighted to be working with you and going forward as well.
Thank you, Jonathan, and indeed, see you in 2 weeks in Riyadh.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Benoît-Etienne.